Okay, Pete. So slightly fewer attendees, but we'll make sure this is on YouTube anyway. So thank you very much for presenting a little bit about match racing, and I'll let you carry on.
Okay, I'm just going to start a little video.
Match racing is the most gladiatorial sailing discipline. It pits two boats against each other on a very short race course. The two teams battle for advantage during the 4-minute period before the start gun, then sail upwind to the top mark where they hoist spinnakers. Turning back downwind onto the run to the leeward mark, the spinnakers must be dropped for the second lap. The races usually last 2 or sometimes 3 laps, and the action is umpired on the water using a system of flags. Each boat is assigned a colour, either blue or yellow. The sailors raise a red and yellow flag to protest if they think their opponent has broken a rule. The umpires announce their decision, raising the appropriate blue or yellow flag to signify the boat that has offended. If a red flag is raised as well, it means the infringement is more severe and the penalty, turning the boat through 3/4 of a circle, must be taken immediately. Otherwise, the penalty can be taken any time before the finish. The first to cross the finish line is the winner.
Alright, I thought I'd keep it short today, so that's about it really. Anyone got any questions?
Yellow and red, right?
So, how many of you guys have sailed match race before? I recognize a few of you. So a couple of new guys today. Match race is clearly very different from fleet race in terms of there's only 2 boats, and with only 2 boats, it's going to be a lot of situations to try and get your opponent penalty. So what I thought we'll go through today is mainly 3 areas. Mainly go through the start, which is a pre-start, and how we prepare for that. The upwind and then the downwind. When I speak and when I go through situations, please just raise your hand if you got a question or if there's something that I don't really explain too well, so we get a bit of a discussion and so on. So when going out for a start in match race, it's pretty much like any other fleet race, that you really need to prepare yourself and the team to get a good start. And these are the basic things, that's what you should do in a fleet race as well. And this is 3 of the most important things here, which is getting a transit. Everyone knows what getting a transit is? Basically, so you can get the line, so you know if you're over or underneath the line. And it's absolutely crucial, because in match race, everything's going to happen so fast, so you need to know if you're above, below, or on top of the line. Going head to wind here to see which one is favored. You can easily see if you go head to wind in the middle of the line or anywhere on the line which side is favored, if the pin is closer to the wind or if the race committee is closer to the wind. And this is not only where it's favorable to start the race, but it's also how you're going to approach to get into the box in the pre-start. You can also see on this picture there's lines coming down from the pin end from the race committee, and that's lay lines for the pin end race committee. So here you can see Buddy is fully sheeted on upwind, and that's to find out where his lay line is for the pin end. Because when you're battling it out in the pre-start, you also need to know how far you can go outside the box until you're too far away. And I'm going to come back to that later. But to get a transit, you basically just sheet on, and when you're on upwind course on the pin end, you just take a landmark further away. And if the distance is a long distance to land, it should be pretty much the same at the race committee. So you only really need to do it once. We talk about the H in the pre-start, and it's basically the start line and a line upwind from the race committee and from the pin end. And that is when you enter into the box at 4-minute gun. Which is this flag. So when the 4-minute gun goes, you need to be outside these lines. So if you're yellow boat, you need to be outside that line. If you're blue boat, you need to be outside that line. And to check that, we got the race officer on the race committee. He's checking you, and if you're early, you get a penalty. And the same goes for the pin end with the umpire, which you see in the purple boat. So coming into the box at 4 minutes is absolutely crucial. And to do that, this is how I usually do it. You need to get a time and distance. I usually sail away from the mark at the same time as I come back. So if it's very consistent breeze, maybe I go 1 minute that way and 1 minute back. But if it's a bit gusty, I only want to do it half a minute each way. And it's not really half a minute because it takes a bit of time to tack as well. So you need to calculate that as well. So if you look at this one, so when the 5 minute gun goes, I keep on sailing out at sort of 90 degrees from the wind. Because that's when the boat goes fastest. And then, you know, for when it's 4:35 to go, I tack around. The tack takes about 10 seconds, and then I know I've got 25 seconds to go back. And if I'm a little bit early, if there's a little bit of a pressure gust coming in, I need to do, a little turn to slow down. But if the wind is getting lighter, maybe I have to do the tack just a little bit earlier to make sure I'm on time. And the faster you get into the box, the better it is, because then you get control over your opponent. So if there's a square line, square means that there's no favored end. Race committee and pin end is equally towards the wind. Normally, when you get inside the box, the blue boat is trying to get over to get the starboard advantage. But if the yellow boat is good enough, he's trying to block the blue boat. So what happens is we normally get a dial up. So he's trying to get ahead of the yellow, but since the line is square, he's not going to be able to make it. So he's going to go up, do a small tack, and go ahead to wind. And this is, if you've seen match race on TV, 70–80% of the time, this is what's going to happen when they enter the box. And from this position, it's up to blue to try and do everything he can to get out of that position. As you can see, when they line up here, it's really important where the yellow is going to end up, because he don't want to be too far away this way, because then he can leave space for the blue boat to maybe come in between. He don't want to be too close because he's windward boat, so he has to keep clear. He don't want to be too further ahead, because then the blue boat yet again can come behind the yellow boat, and he don't want it to be too far away, because then he can sheet on and sort of tack away. So the position you see now, that's sort of the ultimate position for a dial up if you're a yellow boat. Blue boat, obviously you want to do everything you can to get the yellow somewhere else. Now, in this scenario, you see the pin end is very favored. So what the blue boat will do then, to be able to get over to the starboard side, is he's dipping his boat inside. He needs to be inside the line, and then he can sheet on, and you'll see he'll get ahead of the yellow boat. So the yellow boat is not going to reach him on starboard. But you have to make sure you go inside the line, because you need to get into the box, because you only got 2 minutes, between 4 minutes and 2 minutes to enter the box. If you don't do that, you're going to get a penalty. And in this situation, what the yellow could do to sort of try and block the blue boat is you can tack a little bit earlier and sort of get a lure position, a windward boat, and try and push him up. But since the blue boat can sort of just sheet on his sheet to give the other one bad air, and we'll see a video of that later on where you can sort of see that demonstrated. But in this situation, the blue boat will get out here and then we'll get starboard advantage eventually. Now, if it's a reverse, it's a race committee end favored towards the wind. It's quite easy for the pin end boat, the blue boat, to sort of just cross downwind. And this is the best scenario if you're a blue boat. And it's very hard to get them if you're yellow. So what usually happens is the yellow just try and follow closely to sort of stay in the game. These are the most typical scenarios. Sometimes other things happen, but this is what usually happens. This is a video of the America's Cup where you're going to see exactly one of those dial-ups, and we're just going to have a look at it and see what's going on. Mind you, this is 5 minutes, because during the America's Cup they had 5 minutes to enter the gate, but ISF usually have 4 minutes. So here you can see the typical, they're going downwind. This boat is trying to cross, but since the start line is pretty square, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything. So at some point he's got to either have to jibe or dial up. Jibing is usually not very good, so you always see a dial up. But they want to wait as far as possible because they want to go in to the course as far as far as possible. So here we go. He realizes he's not going to cross. So what he does, he goes upwind, and you're going to see him do a little tack. So make sure he gets starboard, and then he's going to go head to wind. You can see that the starboard boat is he's got his bow pretty much where the other boat's stern is, so he can defend both ways. Now, these guys have done so much mat race, so they're just going to wait each other out and wait for the other boat to make a mistake. And this is really important for the crew to make the boats stay in control. So when they sort of stay head to wind like that, you've got to control the boat with a jib, in this case a genoa, or the main. So if you want to bear away, you need to sheet on the jib, or either cross winch the jib so you get it on the other side to bear away. And if you want to come up a little bit, you have to just sheet on the main a little bit. And that's sort of how you steer, because the helmsman got no steerage at all on the wheel now. So you see they're just burning time, and if we look at when they came in, there was quite a wide line, so they got quite far down. So at the moment they're actually below the line, and I think they're just about inside the ley line to the pin end, and that's really important to know that, because if you're outside, then you're definitely not going to have a chance to start. But Oracle, the white boat there closest to us, to me, knows it's inside the ley line, so he can just wait and sort of until the gun goes, basically. And now you can see this full action, the blue boat, the lure boat sheeting on, and then the other boat is responding and trying to follow. So here they go. And you can see they're so dead in the water. So he got his jib on here, but the main is all the way out. So the bow comes down, and then they're gonna, go down with a, 40-degree angle towards the wind, maybe 50, to get speed, and then they sheet on to go high. Now they realize they're not going to get away. If they got away a little bit, they could tack in front of the other boat, but they realize they're not going to get away, so they do a second dial up, and maybe they slow down a little bit to wait to see what the other boat is doing. He's basically just waiting for the other boat to make a mistake. Now these are one of the best sailors in the world, so they don't do too many mistakes. But here you can see he's going very fast and he's pretty slow, but now they're sheeting on again. Try something new. He's bearing away to get speed. He's just following. And his bow is just behind the stern, so he can keep the inside, so you can go below him or go above him. So you need to stay in control. And it's only 1 minute to go. I'm pretty sure they're outside the ley line now, so the blue boat needs to do something, because he's outside, he's not going to be able to start. He's definitely outside the ley line now. So he's sheeting on, trying to get enough speed to be able to tack in front. And this is quite a nice move he's doing here. Now he's using the pin end to bear away to sort of block the other guy, or try to block him, so he needs to go around the pin end so he can get enough space to jibe and go in front. Now luckily the other boat is just inside, so there's still overlap here, and he's starboard and he's just jibing to port. He's basically trying to do everything he can to get out of that situation, and here comes the protest from the yellow boat. You can see it's only 10 seconds to go to the start. So that's the start now. They're far away, but it doesn't matter because there's only two boats for it. The blue got a penalty. That was a clear starboard port. He tried to get in front, but he just couldn't do it. Now he's bearing away, saying, his lured boat and the other one should keep clear. But when you swing his stern, you got to let the other boat to keep clear. So, you know, eventually here you're going to see 2 penalties and a red flag. And a red flag means they have to take the penalty straight away. So, you know, if you get to the spot where you can't really get out of it, you know, you have to do something to get out of it. And in this case, Oracle just got 2 penalties, and after 2 penalties in the pre-start, it's almost game over. But you never know. With 1 penalty, they could probably get away with it. They could get a good start and get back into the game. Now they need to take the penalty straight away, and these guys are attacking below them, so they can't take the penalty. So it's all about a battle between the boats. I think that the video should sort of finish here. Here goes the penalty. So the penalty upwind is only a jibe, and downwind is attack, which is a little bit different from normal racing where you have to do a full turn. So here we see, if you're in a dial-up, you're the blue boat. If you can get enough space to sheet on and get some speed, then you can actually attack in front of the yellow, and that means the yellow wasn't good enough blocking when they did the dial-up, or that they were holding the position long, you know, better than the yellow boat. So this is one way of getting away with it. You can just try and sheet on and be able to attack in front. The other way around would be to try and jibe around. And in this typical case, the yellow boat could swing his bow underneath the blue boat's stern and sort of block him from jibing. So, you know, to take a different scenario, if the yellow boat is quite far up here, and the blue boat is bearing away, and the yellow is sort of overlapped to windward, he cannot block, so the blue boat can easily jibe away. So what the yellow boat wants is a bit of distance like that, so he's not overlapped, and he can put the bow down inside and be starboard boat, so he cannot jibe. Anyone got any questions so far? We'll keep on going. Here's another scenario. This is actually from Hong Kong when we sailed a couple of months ago. So we got the yellow boat here and the blue boat going up for a dial-up. Same here. This is actually us. We're easing the jib here to slow down to keep that little distance from the starboard boat and the yellow and the blue boat. And now the yellow boat is sheeting on. He's going away. And I think he's blue actually, the flag is just out. Well, he's sheeting on, trying to get away, and you just want to follow as the boat behind with maybe half a boat length in between. But again, as the other movie we saw, this is pretty dangerous. He's almost tacking here. I would say that's a tack if you're an umpire, because you can see that the sails are filling from the other side. So in theory, this boat can just cheat on and get to him because he's tacking boat now, until he cheats on again onto starboard tack.
Good use of the mark there.
Good comment from Richard. This boat to the right couldn't really get to him because the mark was in between. So, you know, if you feel that you're losing it as a starboard boat, you can just do one loop again and get back at him. And here we get a new starboard port, and this boat needs to be clear. So, you know, if you keep that starboard advantage, you just want to go at him over and over again and try and push them further out. And as a boat being pushed out, what you really can do is just do dial up and hope for the other boat to sort of sail past you or get a worse position than you get. Again, he needs to get out. This is the pin end we see here. So, you know, as we get closer to the start, he gets further and further out from the pin end, and the other boat can get a better start inside. So it's pretty light here in these conditions as well. So it's really important to keep the boat going at all time. If you lose speed, you're going to lose the ability to maneuver your boat easily, and then it's super difficult for the helmsman. Now this boat actually got away pretty well with this, and he probably saw the ley line for the pin end and just got inside. So that's why it's so important to get the ley line right for both the pin end and the race committee. Another thing we talk about in match race is the hook. You can talk about it in fleet racing as well. But basically, the hook means when you get your bow inside the other boat's stern and you get rights, and the other boat needs to luff up. So if you see the yellow boat here, if he gets his bow inside the blue boat needs to keep clear and come up. So in this situation, they can just keep on pushing here, but now the blue boat sees the ley line, so he's going to sheet on to make sure he doesn't go outside the ley line. And that's again why you need to keep your ley lines, you need to know your ley lines. Because if the pin end was out here, then the yellow boat could go further in and luff him even more. You know, the blue boat comes up and the yellow can start luffing up above the line. Another scenario is...
Why couldn't he do it if he was below the ley line?
Well, if the blue boat hits the ley line and the yellow continues, obviously he's outside the ley line and he's not going to make the start.
Okay.
And the blue boat is going to make the start.
Don't need to.
So he needs to know where the ley line is, so he can come up inside. If he keeps on going, it's not going to make the pin end. So you can push as far as you reach that sort of boundary, which is the ley line on this side. And the same goes if you go on the other tack. If you're on port, you know, you got the ley line here. You need to know that one.
What
Yep.
if usually the line is not that straight and hook, right?
No.
So it will be biased at the yellow, we have chance to tack.
Well, the ley line will always be the same, right?
In that
So even if the race committee is down here, the ley line to the pin end is
so it may
still
be
the same.
better to import that afterwards. I'm asking something.
Yeah, you gotta know which side of which end of the line is favored, because maybe if the race committee is very favored here, the yellow just want to tack off and get a better start.
That's one.
But you also want to know, you know, where you want to go on the first upwind. If there's more pressure on the left, you want to stay on the pin end side. So clearly, you know, you need to have an idea where you want to go on the upwind, just like normal fleet racing. But if it's not that much favored, you definitely want to chase the other boat instead. But some people get too focused in the match race part of it, and they sort of forget about sailing the boat at the right way. And it's very, very easy. It's very easy.
May not be good.
No, you got to know which side to protect. And if you know, if you want to protect the right-hand side of the course, then it's a good idea to be on top as the yellow boat here. But if the left-hand side is favored, obviously you want to push as close to the pin end as possible. Same, if you're far out on the starboard side of the line, say you're getting close to the start now, inside boat is not going to have room for the race committee. So if the yellow boat goes inside the blue boat here, the blue boat can easily just shut the gap and just sail above the line, sail a little bit higher, and that way he can just keep on forcing him out, and a couple of seconds before the start he can sort of duck in and just go for the start, and the other boat is closed out. Even if they're too early, he can, at this position, he can just do a dial up, and then both needs to dial up, and he can just hold it there for as long as he wants, really, and just to burn the time, so he can get the timing right for the race committee and try and push the other boat out. Either way, if this boat slows down and don't go outside, he's still going to end up behind the blue boat, which is, you know, very favorable for the blue boat, obviously. Here's another
into the starting line. I don't think we'll see any more circling from here on in. It'll be the final run in, and it looks like they're winning the pin as they turn up towards the line. Looks like they're pretty early, probably only 1 minute and 15 sailing to go to the pin end of the line. This is their final approach.
Well, D. Barker is really pushing. He's strong in this breeze. He's got good control of his boat. His goal now is to push that bear towards the line. He's got less than 2 minutes to do so. Can he get a lingy up against the ropes, or actually over the ropes, over the starting line? That's his first goal as he lets the clock tick down. And now both boats on port tack. It's a lingy on the run. It's Team New Zealand chasing, pushing hard. But I think Baird is okay in this stage. He's able to sail away from Team New Zealand and now tack back onto starboard, head for the line. He's got options. He can bear off to the pin. He can tack and head for the boat. No override yet for the boat behind, so Team New Zealand has not forced the pressure on a lingy yet as both boats slow down. A solid position for New Zealand, however, to leeward. It looks like he might want the pin end of the line. Baird right now has options as well. But here's the danger. Don't let the bow get too close to the stern, or else Baird is going to have a hook. If he gets a hook, he'll be forced to tack or sheet in to keep the distance away from the boat behind him. That's not exactly what he wants. Definite overlap now. It's a lingy to windward. It's Team New Zealand to leeward. Less than a minute to go. The boats are early. That's why there's no speed right now. Both of them just slowing down. New Zealand tucked to the inside. No problem there if he wants the pin. But it's Baird now who doesn't want to be tight to windward. He tacks onto port. Will Dean Barker follow? Luffing up. Almost had to win the heads of luff, but back down on port. It's a split. Less than 30 seconds to go now as the boats head for the line, and Baird is back on starboard as well. Tough to tell from here, but we can see Team New Zealand ramping it towards the pin. Will the first shift go to the left, or will it go to the right? Baird to windward. Barker to leeward. The clock ticks down. The boats are going to nail this one. It's going to be an incredibly close start, but it's likely to go to Team New Zealand. Here comes the gun. Don't be over the line early. We're off in the final race here in Emirates. Team New Zealand has all the pressure on, and Baird sits tight to windward in a lingy.
For me, definitely a win to Team New Zealand off that starting line, but Ed Baird did a super job, because I thought they were in big trouble at lingy. The reason Team New Zealand in a little bit of an advantage is because the distance separating the two boats is very small. It's only, well, it's probably within 1.5.
A little bit different from sailing J80 out here. So what really happened here was that you're getting one boat following the other coming in, like this, and the boat following is just trying to get inside with the bow to push the other boat up. And when he gets the bow up inside, he needs to come up. And they were clearly inside the ley line. You can see the boat actually tacked at one point. But when they come in here, he can just keep on forcing him up. And it's either going to be a dial up, or this boat is going to have to tack away. Now, if he tacks away, he can just put his bow inside of him and just keep on sailing, and they can keep on going and just force them over the line. Now, the yellow boat in this case realized that they were just slightly early, so they had to slow down. So they did the dial up, but they knew they were inside the ley line, and they're both sort of, both knew they were early, so just to slow down. This boat managed to get a little bit forward, and I think, looking back at the video, I think this boat could do a lot more to sort of try and stay close to the yellow boat. And if they did, what they could end up with, a good position where the blue boat's leading to the line, and the yellow boat's getting his dirt already. Now, these guys did a very good job with keeping the separation, and as they approached the line, they were pretty much came off the line at the same time. But you can see why they're wiggling back and forth to do the proper timing to the line, and the boat sort of pushing the other boat to get early, or pushing him away from the line. So it's that's why I'm keep on stressing that ley lines and knowing where the salt line is so important. So here's another one, a little bit smaller boat, a little bit lighter. This is quite interesting because they were attacking straight away when they came inside. But here they go. They're going to do a dial up here any second. And the other boat is sort of, making sure he's going inside to protect the starboard side, so he's not going to be able to take out. Now, at this stage, they're really close. And this boat is not going to be able to hold up as much as the other boat. So he's climbing up like this. And they need to keep clear. And the only way they can keep clear in this situation is they have to tack before they lose too much speed. Because when they start drifting, they got no rights. So they're tacking away. And the other boat tacks with them. You can see how the crew work is doing everything they can to get the boat going. So it's super important as well. If you got that little edge on the other boat, it makes life a lot more simple. Now you can see him sheeting on the main all the way to give the other boat as much bad air as possible. So they go really slow, and they can sort of sail on top of them and keep on going. And it's, in this video it's so light wind, so if you can go a little, half knot and not faster than the boat, it helps a lot. Here comes the jibe, and they're attacking the other boat on starboard. Now I think because of land here, it's sort of a restriction. They didn't really want to get on the other side because you can't go further away that way. But now this boat needs to keep clear. They're going for the hook, trying to get the bow inside the stern. Now what this boat could do here, they're tacking inside to try and force the other boat up. So now they have to come up again because they got overlap. Yeah, it's always, try and push as much as possible, but it comes down to the umpires, and here they get room for land as well. So it's a bit of a special situation on this one. But they keep on pushing for the right. They want to have the starboard advantage, so they keep on coming back and then have a go at the other boat. So you can hear what they're talking. They're talking time all the time. They're talking what they want to do all the time. So they probably want to start a little bit further, closer to the race committee here. So that this is probably the final tag to the line. Huh? It's a lot of hard work. So now, two options: either go for the hook or come up above. But if he's going for the hook, he knows that he definitely got more room down to the ley line. Otherwise, there's no point of going for the hook. So you see the pin in there, and they got the ley line now. And if they got the hook, so that boat needs to tack away. So what we got here is basically a split start. So if you... But if they want to get a split start, maybe they want to keep the left-hand side of the course. They believe it's more wind on that side. So, you've got to know all that before you get into the start. It's part of your preparation. One more thing, rules-wise. If you get pushed out as a blue boat here and the start gun goes, if you get chased down and you get overlapped from behind, in this scenario, the yellow boat needs to sail its proper course, and that's sort of how you can get back into the race, even though the start is gone. Because after the start, there's different rules from before the start. So you need to know the rules.
That was after start or before start?
After start. After start, if you get lured boat, inside boat, you need to keep your proper course if you come in from behind. Same as over everywhere else on the course, on the downwind and upwind and so on. But before the start. Obviously there's no proper course, so you don't need to follow that. This move is quite interesting, called steel balls.
As a dog.
This is the dial-up. It just came into the box. Well, they come into the box now. That's the pin end. And this is also a demonstration of how important it is for the yellow boat, the starboard boat, to position himself well in the dial-up.
Now you'll see clear turn goes directly into the wind. At some point you'll see sailors go up on the bow. You'll see each boat, then
so the yellow just left a little bit too much gap in between the boats and dial, so he could
just a little bit,
tack and
opening up
bear
a hole
away.
for the wad to duck in and pull off a move we call the steel balls.
It's probably a reason why it's called steel balls. But you know, if you get away with that, you easily get the starboard advantage and you get a pretty good position. Just going to talk about a few things on upwind. Obviously, if you get off the line, you just need to cover the other boat, and you need to cover which end of the side of the course you believe in. If you believe the left-hand side is favorable, you want to cover that side. If you believe the right-hand side is favorable, you want to cover that. This is sort of when you get around the second lap, which is basically the same idea. But if you get around the second lap, you need to get onto the cover straight away. If the yellow boat tacks, the blue boat needs to go with him. It's super scary if you sort of let them go, and there's a little wind shift, especially when we sail out in the bay out here. Now you can see the blue boat here sort of moved from being straight ahead to sort of being straight upwind almost from the yellow boat. And how it does that is that when they tack simultaneously, but when the yellow boat tacks the next time, the blue boat just waits a couple of seconds and sort of get the next advantage sort of a little bit more in front and above the other boat. And then at the same time, the next tack as well, he goes a little bit earlier on the next tack. So he sort of gets, obviously the best cover is when you're dead upwind, because you can cover both ends. But when you get around the mark, it's really tricky. So you can work your way up and just tacking earlier or later, depending on which side you want to protect. If you want to cover the right side, and you get a good rounding and the yellow boat tacks straight away, and you go with him, and if you really want to protect that side, you don't want him to tack when you tack on top of him, so you just let him go a little bit and sort of get what we call a loose cover, because in this position it's unlikely that the yellow boat will tack back, because he's sort of got the clean air and he can keep on going, whereas if he tacks back, you're going to go on top of him again. So you can sort of try and push him to the wrong side of the course by letting him go a little bit, and because even though it's match race, you still have to sail against the shift. Upwind dial down is when you can see they're pretty much as close as possible to the wind. They got the same distance to the mark, but if the blue boat want to tack, he needs to go behind the other boat, because he's not going to cross in front. So he needs to do bear away. And what the other boat is doing to cover that side is he's bearing away as well, to sort of get starboard port on him. What's important here is that you're not allowed to bear away more than 90 degrees to the wind. So when he tacks, he's actually bearing away straight away and sort of aiming at his stern to make sure he can't go behind, and that way get a penalty. If he bears away too much, he can actually get the penalty himself. And if he doesn't start bearing away straight away, the other boat can easily get behind. Here's a similar scenario, but he tacked a little bit earlier. So they're coming in on starboard port. You can see how aggressive the starboard boat is. So what these guys are doing now, they're just looking at the other boat and trying to follow his maneuver. So as soon as the other boat bears away, which is now, he bears away as well. So 90 degrees, not more. pretty aggressive. It's pretty aggressive, but he's proving his point. He goes down to 9 degrees. Actually, it's difficult for the umpire to see 9 degrees, but you cannot go down much more than 9 degrees, because then you're going to get the penalty yourself. So he goes down, he holds his course, doesn't do anything until he absolutely needs to avoid collision, and that's when he sort of comes up. And the umpire can't really do anything more than give a penalty.
What happens in a situation like that when he could have gone up there and avoided the actual collision? There's a pretty solid collision there. Yeah. Is he risking getting a penalty himself or because of that?
Yeah, he is. I mean, you should avoid collision, but if you read the rules, it says that if you ride away boat and you're trying to avoid the collision, even though it's too late, you should get exonerated.
He made his point. He could have come up 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 5 seconds earlier or something and avoided the collision.
I can speak for myself. What I think when I'm in a situation like that, I don't mind giving them a bit of a touch, because that's when you prove your point. I would never sail into a boat to get damage, but I would definitely, give it a little rub.
But that's just fine. That was damage.
He avoided the T-bone, right?
Yeah.
Because he did avoid because he turned. If he didn't, you couldn't really penalise him for not avoiding, because if he didn't avoid, then it would have been a T-bone.
Yeah, I think it's clear.
So
like, you do everything you can to avoid.
Yeah. And you don't have to do it until it's clear that the other one's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same in fleet racing, and clearly if you're sailing club level and you pay your deposit yourself, maybe you want to be a bit more careful, especially now when we,
I've been in many boats, but I've never hit it as hard as that.
No, I've probably...
pretty firm.
You're getting on the edge, you're sticking your back end into the side, so it's a little bit...
Well, they got TV as well, we need some good coverage. But yeah, I would probably avoid doing that much. If you have a mainsail, you can maybe let the mainsail go out and touch the other boat. That's proven a point as well. You could, give it a little bit notch with the back of the boat as well, but I wouldn't go as far as that. But that is the pro circuit. So. If you get boats coming in on different tacks, the yellow one definitely needs to cover, right on top of the other boat. And a slam dunk is basically when you just take his wind straight away. Now, in this scenario, if you look very, very close, you can see that when the yellow boat that is tacking, when he comes out of the tack and he's on his new port tack, there's actually an overlap, which means that the blue boat's got luffing right. So if you do that and the other boat's got luffing right, you need to be careful and avoid collision if he luffs up. Now, the blue boat, on the other hand, needs to give the other one room and opportunity to keep clear, so you cannot just luff him. He needs to do fairly slow. And
but he doesn't have to in that case, does he? Because yellow got there because of his own actions.
Yeah, but when he gets onto port, that's when he's on an attack, right? And that's when the other boat needs to, can have luffing right. So from that moment, he still needs to give him time and opportunity. He can't just slam the boat up, because then he will get the penalty himself. But as a yellow boat, you need to be aware of it and keep clean. This is, sort of the same situation, I suppose. But
I think you're holding on
you're going to see these boats just tacked around and going on the ley line for the mark. And as they come around the mark now, he might just be ahead, but he's going to get the other boat on top, right? So what he can do to get a bit more advantage is just to push up for height, because he should be able to start giving me a bad air, especially if he luffs up. It looks like this boat almost can roll if they keep on going, so that's why the other boat is luffing. But the windward boat is moving forward all the time. But now they're sort of parallel again. And if the leeward boat just does not dial up, they're going to gain even more. And you can basically go ahead to win and stay there for a minute if you want, if you think it benefits you. So, you know, this is clearly the difference between flick race and match race. You can stop in the middle of a race, as long as you're doing better than another boat. And you can see here, these guys are starting to cheat on again, come down on course, and the other guys are just late, they don't get the boat going. And all of a sudden, the lure boat got a massive gain.
Is that before the start or during the race?
Sorry?
Is that during the race or before the start?
This is during the race. This is the upwind mark here. That's the upwind mark. So the point being is that you can do these maneuvers everywhere on the race course.
So they're pretty committed to the port lay line, weren't they? Because
Especially,
otherwise Dean would have tacked earlier, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to say what happened just before that, I suppose.
Sure.
But what's this about? This is the same situation as before with Landon. Well, here you can see he finishes his tack before the other one gets overlapped. And if you finish the tack before it gets overlapped, you cannot luff as a blue boat. If you see on number 5 here, this is 5, this is 5. He's got his bow inside the stern, and that way he cannot luff because he's got to hold his proper course. So again, you got to know those rules, otherwise you can get the umpire decision against you. I would say it's pretty much the most favorable place to do the penalty is on the upwind. Now, if you get a penalty after the start and you're going to sail 2 laps and you're just ahead of the other boat, maybe you don't want to take the penalty in the upwind. Maybe you want to wait with it because you can give the other boat gas all the way up to the upwind mark and maybe extend your lead a little bit. It's all about, you know, getting away. If you get a penalty, you need to get away so you can actually take the penalty and still stay ahead. But if, like in this picture, you're well ahead, the best way is to just do a quick penalty turn and sort of end up on top of the other boat and got a good cover. Now, if the blue boat would sort of be a little bit switched on, he would tack away straight away and get fresh air. So even better to do the penalty is if you wait all the way out to the ley line, because if they were sort of coming out here and he took a penalty there when he was tacking, I mean, then obviously he cannot tack back because they're outside the ley line. So you sort of force them to give them dirty air for the rest of the course. Downwind, what we're doing in Hong Kong is mainly, well, only asymmetrical spinnakers, so I'm going to focus on that. And on this picture you can see that it's sort of, when I talk about left cover, I'm talking about looking downwind, because on my boat I always talk, you know, if you're going upwind I talk about left going upwind, going downwind I talk about left going down, as if you look from the mark down to the bottom mark. So you can see it's a little bit biased. It's a longer run on port than it is on starboard. So you want to be able to give the other boat, the yellow boat, as much dirty air as possible on that particular jibe. So if you're rounding as a blue boat behind the yellow boat, you definitely want to get in on top of him as early as possible. So you go a little bit higher and get more speed, and sort of try and get on top of him. If it's the other way around, you want to go around the mark, and you want to stay sort of inside of him, right behind him, or inside. So when he's going to have to jibe, you can jibe at the same time and get on top of him. And a symmetrical boat is really good because it's fairly easy to cover downwind. It's a good opportunity if you're the boat just behind, because you can just wait for the other boat to do something and then get right on top of it. Because in this position as a blue boat, you got a long way to go all the way down here, right? So you can just stay on his wind, and then when he gets a little bit closer, just come up a little bit and get speed and try and get ahead. Again, as upwind to start, no, we got proper course, and this is a typical scenario that happens, you know, quite often in match race. We got, you know, both boats coming out on starboard. he's basically going to be able to push him out all the way, you know, as far as possible because it's starboard boat. But they're going to have to go to this mark. And if they get an overlap, like we get now, he's going to be able to hold his proper course, the yellow boat. So he has to jibe to get back in. So basically what the blue boat is doing is when he's up here, they don't have overlap, but he's bearing away a little bit. So he slows down and his stern is sort of, the angle is getting changed, so they get an overlap quite easy. And when they got an overlap and they approach the ley line, you can just, you know, raise your flag and say you got to hold your proper course. And if he doesn't jibe straight away, the yellow boat, then I'm pretty sure the umpire is going to take a decision on that. So as the yellow boat, you can always push it a little bit because it's the yellow boat's proper course. So he can just say, you know, if he's out here, he can say that's basically my proper course. But then it's up to the umpire. So you can push a little bit, but you still got to remember not to push too much. Yep.
Doesn't yellow have inside overlap on the other boat now? Or?
Well, all this happening outside the two boat sun. Oh, this is actually, sorry, 3. In matches is 2. But as long as it's outside, you don't get mark room until you get inside the two boat sun. So if this incident happened, you know, further down, clearly the blue boat would have mark room coming in. But as they come out now, you know, it's just about to get into the 3 boat length zone as fast as possible. In this situation, you can actually see he's got an overlap when he crosses the zone. So in this typical scenario, it means that the blue boat would actually have mark room. So what the yellow boat should do is to come up in between these situations, come up 5-10 degrees, and aim for the further out here instead, which means that this line is going to go a bit more like that, and he's going to go get more speed, which means he's going to pull away from the other boat, so he, you know, could avoid giving him mark room.
Just remind people it's a starboard rounding, which makes that situation quite different.
Yeah.
Thinking the port rounding.
Sorry. Yeah, it's always starboard roundings. And I just put the protest boat here because this is basically where he wants to be. He wants to be able to see if there's overlap or not. So that's why it's just following like that. Downwind penalty is a lot more trickier, and the time where you have to take a downwind penalty is basically if you go upwind the second beat and the other guy is still very close to you. You don't want to do the penalty because you want to have the advantage of being ahead. If you know that you got enough room to take the penalty, yes, you can take the penalty upwind. But if you know you don't have enough room, you sort of want to stay ahead, because if you're ahead, you can always engage with the other boat and you can try and do something to get rid of your penalty. There's, you know, sort of 2 ways of doing it on the last downwind. One way is if you believe you're far enough ahead, you can just keep on going for the finish line and try and take the penalty at the finish line. The reason why is because you have to drop the spinnaker or the gennaker when you do the penalty. So you don't want to, you know, drop it and hoist it and be too far away from the line because you lose speed. Another way, if you don't feel that you have enough advantage to keep on going, you know, the other solution is to try and get the other boat a penalty. So basically what I have to do is slow down and wait for the other boat. So if I'm the blue boat here now, and I know that I don't have enough time to do my penalty at the finish mark, I'm basically just going to drop my spinnaker and wait for the other boat to get close. And what you most likely will see is that the other boat will drop his spinnaker as well, because he just wants to stay behind. Because he's knowing he's going to finish ahead of him if he just, you know, play it cool. But the blue boat just want to slow down and try and get the yellow boat to get overlap from windward, and then you can try and push him and then take a penalty as the blue boat real quick and still manage to be, you know, just ahead. If, on the other hand, they get down here and the yellow boat is jibing, he needs to be quick and jibe with him. Everything to try and get a penalty on the other boat. So, you know, it's win or swim. You just gotta have to do something about it, because it doesn't matter if you lose by 5 minutes or 5 meters. Yeah.
What differentiates between taking that penalty tag and it being part of your maneuver of trying to get out and the ball.
It is, you take your penalty. So you love
So the attack downwind classifies.
Yeah.
And now whether it's involved
But-
in the ball or not.
Let me see if I get this correct. I think you start your penalty when you tack, right? Do you know this?
Yeah.
Richard? You start your penalty when
This
you
came
tack.
this came up last year actually, and I did look at it, and yeah, that is fairly valid. But I think if you're you're taking your penalties, you go through head to wind until you get down below 90 degrees. So as long as you're not the giveaway boat during that period, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
You have to keep clear doing that. Penalty.
Then you have
Correct,
to keep clear.
yeah.
So if you're taking a penalty and there's one boat behind you, he can just aim at you, basically when you take the penalty, and you get the second penalty.
Difficult. Once you pull off that.
It's for the umpire, it's really tricky because you need to follow, all the angles exactly, and it's really tricky. But again, you need to do everything you can to get rid of that penalty and get another penalty, and there we go. Sometimes you just want to luff. You don't want to take your penalty. You just want to luff and try and get the penalty in that boat. And then you're equal, so then you can just bear away and go for the finishing. You don't want to push it too much, but different in different scenarios. And this is the other option when you take the penalty at the finish line. I'm sure it's debatable. This is typically what they do on big America's Cup boats, that quite long, fast boats. But you want to take it at the line. You don't want to take the penalty up here. You want to take it as close to the line as possible, because when you take the penalty, you're going to slow down so much. So you want to be able to just dip down the bow and finish. However, you need to take the penalty above the line. So as we said, when you tack, you need to have your boat above the line. So if you've seen the America's Cup, sometimes in the old days anyway, they go around the pin end and they just cheat on, because then they know they're exactly on top of the line, and then they just tack around and put the bow down. I'm not sure if the J80 is such a good boat to do that in. But I mean, you can do the same maneuver, but you can do it here. Because the J80 is so small, so you can probably turn a lot quicker. But I actually never tried to do it around the pin end, but I suppose we have to try that at some point. So yeah, that's one way of taking the penalty. And then you get mark room coming into the finish as well, when you pass the 90 degree to the wind. So when you completed your penalty.
I guess that's the only advantage then of doing it at the pin, is you get that mark room, you come down, whereas if you do it in the middle, you're a bit exposed.
Yeah. So you don't want to do it around the race committee.
I never realised that's allowed.
But there was one boat on the Louis Vuitton or whatever it was a couple of years ago that did around the pin, and when he took his penalty, the mast is so high, so it was actually leaning over the finish line. So when he was sort of in this position, his mast was actually below the finish line, so they didn't count as a penalty. So that was a bit harsh. But again, you're gonna have a pretty extraordinary boat to get into those situations. Here's a little video from my home waters. Now, these boats are racing against each other, and this guy got a penalty. And this, I think the finish line is coming up in a second here. See, he's hoisting the jib already, so he's getting ready to take the penalty, but he's going to wait all the way down to he gets as close as possible to the line. There you go. There's some other boats as well interfering, but here goes the penalty. That's it done. And he pulls the kite up again. As the spinnaker comes up, they just cross the finishing line. So it's it's super good timing on their part. You can see if he did a little bit further out, the red kite would easily just pass him. But because they had good timing and did it just on the line, they got away with it. So timing is pretty important. That's about everything I had to go through today. So I thought if anyone's got any questions or clarify any scenarios or anything like that, please go ahead. Excellent. Anyone doing any match racing up ahead? There's 2 races coming up.
Yeah, we've 2 one-day series, but it seems pretty quiet from the normal match races. So, I mean, if you're interested in this Sunday, it's probably unlikely to go ahead, but maybe next Sunday we're going to try and push it. So if you want to get involved, if you want to do at least one day, yeah, just let us know. And it's not too late to put a team in, even if it's not for this event coming up. We've still got 2 more one-day events, and then we've got the nationals and the international.
I mean, the beauty of match racing is whatever boat you're sailing in, normally in fleet racing, you're going to learn so much from doing match race. And it's going to be pretty tricky to get in and race against the other boats that's done it a couple of times. Because, you know, what I've just been going through is just situations. And match race is so much about knowing the situations. When you're in that position, what would you do? You know, you're going to lock him out, or you're going to come up, or bear away, or whatever you want to do. And you need to just practice and do it over and over again to know those inside out. So, you know, it's pretty hard to get in and race against other people that's done it for a while. But you learn very quickly, and just by looking at videos and so on, you learn a lot. And that's, you know, unfortunately we don't do too much match racing in Hong Kong. That's what I do. I just go in and have a look at some of the videos to sort of see what the other guys are doing, and by that, just memorizing what to do in different scenarios. But yeah, I strongly recommend to get into the match race, do a couple of races, because both you and your crew will learn a lot. So it's definitely good for your fleet race as well. All right.
Thank you very much, Pete.
Cheers, Patrick.